Today we're going to deal with Coraline getting the tiny door open in the Pink Palace, and we're going to cover everything that entails, including her relationship with her parents. Welcome back to Scenic Saturdays here on the Fangirl channel. I'm McGann, and we are still just getting started in analyzing Coraline. Also, if you're willing and able, it would really be appreciated if you join channel memberships. Before we get started with this scene though, there were a few comments that I wanted to stop and address. PI1Lev on Instagram sent me a comment asking if I had ever considered that the buttons with the odd slit are related to the black cat. And no, I hadn't. I didn't even notice those buttons. But that does tie in with other things I've said before, like the black cat has to be working with the beldam, because one, he's going to the other world at the end of the movie, and two, he has a claw-shaped chunk missing from his ear, like that's her tag. Then Julia13JD said that the wallpaper in the real world does not have beetles on it, it has flowers. I feel really strongly that I'm seeing bugs on this wallpaper, but maybe it's one of those duck bunny style tests? So everyone weigh in on the comments as to whether you see beetles or flowers in the wallpaper here. Okay, on to the scene. This is another hodgepodge scene. So we're going from Coraline finding the tiny door where it's all sealed up until Coraline goes through the tunnel. And this is going to be a prime example of how the theoretical possibilities in this movie are absolutely endless. So Coraline's doll leads her to discovering the small door, and really, it's not hidden by furniture or anything, it's behind an empty box. So Coraline really didn't need the doll to lead her there. She would have found it within the next day or two on her own. But her parents may have been less irritable then. But using the doll here makes it way more creepy and raises a lot more questions. And Coraline decides to yell across the house to ask her mother where this door goes, as if Mel herself didn't move in yesterday just like Coraline did. Sure, honey, I have more insight to this than you. And Mel tells her daughter from across the house that she's really busy, but Coraline ignores her mom's plea and whines and whines until it grates on her mother's nerves enough that she gets up to go to the living room to see what the heck is going on. And keep in mind here, Charlie is just as close to Coraline as Mel is, but Coraline doesn't try to bother her father, and Dad of the Year definitely doesn't jump in to try and help. And I get that Charlie is the writer and Mel is the editor, but they're still both working right now. And I have heard a lot of people say that Mel looks way too mad in this scene, so that would mean that she's already the beldam in disguise. But, do the people who say that have children? And if they do have children, have they ever tried to work from home? Because that's my life, and I don't think Mel is acting unreasonable for the amount of time she's being harassed. Her kid is 11 years old and perfectly capable of playing or unpacking alone. This mom, what's this door about is a punitive punishment from Coraline, all because her mother wouldn't let her go garden in the rain. So Coraline's like, fine, if you're gonna make me miserable, then I'm gonna make you miserable back. And while Mel is looking at Coraline, she asks if Coraline will stop pestering her if Mel goes to find the key. And oh my gosh, look at Mel tapping her fingers against her arm just like the beldam does when she gets annoyed. The parallel details in this are flawless. And Coraline just does this annoying puppy whimper as a response until Mel finally walks away to complete her end of the bargain. Now, here is where things get extremely interesting. Mel goes to a junk drawer in the kitchen that is filled with random keys. And there are definitely more keys than doors in this house. There's even one with a twist tie and a tag that says Grand House. What does that mean? Is that someone's grandparents' home? It can't mean the part of the Pink Palace apartments that Coraline's family just moved into, because it would be really dumb to have the key for the house locked inside of the house. That's how you get permanent squatters. So I'm really not sure here. Anyone have insight? But most of these keys are labeled with numbers like 1102 233, and contextually, having this many keys does not make sense. The keys all look really old and weathered too, so I don't imagine that a lot of these still work. But when Mel opens that key drawer and starts digging around, there is definitely no button key in there. That particular key is shiny. It looks new. It's not oxidizing like the others, and it's way bigger. So there should have been nowhere for that key to hide based on the number of keys present. Yet, as Mel waves her hand over the center of the drawer, suddenly the button key appears. And somehow Mel knows that this is the key that will work on the small door, despite there being no logical reason to assume that. The door doesn't have a button on it. Mel didn't even get close enough to see what type of key that little door needed. At best, she should have grabbed the button key and several others to test them all out, because she shouldn't know which one works. Now, that is suspicious, and I would use that moment to reinforce that Mel could already be replaced by the beldam here, except when Mel holds the key up to her face, she does give it a quizzical kind of look. Coraline isn't in the room with her. In fact, no one else is in the room with Mel. So that look has to be a genuine reaction. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you feel that the evidence suggests that Mel is the beldam in this scene? Or is it possible that Mel was just looking at this weird key and she decided to claim it would work on the door whether it did or not, just to shut Coraline up? Like, sorry honey, I tried, the key doesn't work, you saw for yourself. And then Mel, without having any reservations about asking the landlord first, starts cutting the door out of the wallpaper. No worries. I'm sure it's easy to replace 100-year-old wallpaper, right? You can match that down at Lowe's. And the doll is watching in the background with a little musical flourish to alert us that something is strange about this toy. Then Mel shoves the key into the wallpapered over lock and it works, which also seems surprising considering how busted up, rusted up, and creaky the rest of the house is. And Coraline is so disappointed to see that it's just a brick wall behind the door. But what was she going to do if there was another apartment there? Was she just going to waltz in and say, "Hi, random neighbors"? Or what if the thing was filled with more bugs? Why would you assume that this door that has been sealed up for decades has anything good behind it? Now, in the book, it's not a tiny door, it's a normal sized door that is actually a corridor between apartments that Coraline unseals here. However, looking at this small door in the movie, I'm assuming that this used to be some type of laundry chute or a dumbwaiter tunnel, maybe a crawl space to get to the basement. With the way the apartments in the film are stacked on top of each other, I do have trouble figuring out what that door used to go to and why it would have been sealed away. Obviously, we get the idea in hindsight that, oh, the Lovats probably did that after they lost their child, but I have seen little doors like that in other people's houses. They're just usually not in a living room. But Coraline is as confused as I am, though, because even she's asking why this door is so small, to which Mel snaps and tells her to zip it. Which again, yeah, it does seem mean, but yeah, also Mel made a deal and she needs to go work. She can't afford an office and a babysitter to get Coraline out of her hair. So I get that Mel is just done with this conversation. She does not want to entertain Coraline any further. So being a kid that never quite listens, when her mom tells her to zip it, Coraline claps back saying that her mom didn't lock the door, and Mel yells into the void and tosses the key into the drawer angrily. And Coraline tries to slam the small door shut, but it doesn't quite stay, which builds up a mild tension with the audience that the door is staying open. And take special note here that the doorknob is only on the side facing the wall, so that door is staying open. Then we move into the night, where it is gorgeously raining outside, and Charlie has made some gooey, gross type of casserole for dinner. To me, it looks like lasagna noodles, nachos, peppers, olives, and and gel. I don't even know what kind of gel. It's almost like he just forced a meal together out of whatever the previous tenants had left behind. I mean, come on, it's their second day there. If going to the grocery store wasn't at the top of their to-do list, then they should be ordering Chinese or pizza or something edible. I know they're broke, but you still have to eat. And the family is sitting at the kitchen table in folding chairs as well, which, again, this is bizarre. Didn't they show a dining room table earlier? And even if they didn't want to open up the dining room and wanted to eat in the kitchen, did they not own some kind of dining table and chairs to match it in Michigan? Chairs don't tend to be deconstructed or packed away in boxes. It should have literally been a task of taking the kitchen chairs from wherever the movers had put them into the kitchen. 5 minutes at the most. And the Jones can't put their real chairs in the kitchen, but they will take the extra effort of unfolding a fourth chair for Coraline's doll to sit in. These people make no sense. Oh, okay, Charlie's a Michigan fan. There, that makes sense now. And Mel confirms that she has not gone food shopping and that she doesn't plan to until she finishes the catalog, but where did this food come from then? And why do they have a family system of dad cooking and mom cleaning if Charlie can't cook decent food? In this moment, I really can't blame Coraline for being irritated. Nothing about this kitchen scene makes sense. And hold on, wait a second. When Mel lifts up her hand to swear that she's gonna go shopping soon, there are 2 puncture marks in her hand. It's also kind of red and puffy there, like a snake bit her. What is that? Has Mel been infected? Has something taken her over already? I've seen this movie a million times and I've never noticed that mark before. And I do like the added detail that Charlie is singing to Coraline in this kind of lazier way, just like he's thoughtlessly doing it, because the doll is watching Charlie. She's aimed at Charlie right now. And then in a few minutes, Coraline is going to meet the other father and he's going to have this very big razzle-dazzle show tune number for Coraline. So it's just like, yeah, it's the same over there in the other world, but better. Anyways, Coraline complains that the food is disgusting, which it is, and Charlie gently tells Coraline that she can either eat her slime or go to bed. So Coraline transitions from the kitchen table to her bedroom, decked out in her pajamas, and she's staring at the ceiling of her fairly barren bedroom, but if she had been working on unpacking her room earlier, it would be a much better space right now. So this is a self-made problem. I mean, come on, Coraline doesn't even have sheets on her bed, but she had time to complain all day about being bored. We then get a close shot of the poison oak rash, just so we remember that it's there and will be called upon later. And Coraline reaches over to the photo that she has out, which is of her 2 friends who changed the Pontiac Junior High sign to read "Goodbye, Coraline." And that's a nice sentiment. It shows us that they really cared about her, but 2 things. One, we can verify that it's currently winter season because there's snow in this picture. You know, when the sign says "Goodbye, Coraline," that picture was taken recently. She just moved into the Pink Palace in Oregon. And 2, how did Coraline get this developed and framed already? Even if they did this for her a day or 2 before moving, these are still the days of physical film. And the Jones family is broke, so they aren't paying extra for 1-hour photo development. Back then, it took roughly 4 to 7 days to get pictures back from processing, and the Jones family would not have been to Walgreens or anything like that since moving because they haven't even gotten groceries, so this photo should not exist. But hey, maybe Coraline has a 3rd friend and that's the one that took the picture and got it developed and they got it framed for her and they all pitched in and the Jones family had to pay for nothing. That's a possibility, but it just feels weird. But the bigger point of this shot is that Coraline longingly asks her friends not to forget about her. She's having this classic moving away syndrome, and I'm sure that adds to her brattiness right now. Also, curiously, Coraline sets the picture down on a praying mantis figure that looks just like the one we see in the other garden later. It's also odd to me that after walking around with the Coraline doll all day, Coraline puts the button-eyed doll in the chair next to her bed and chooses to sleep with the teddy bear instead. If we back up a few seconds, there's also a squid with a pink button eye at the foot of her bed. And I think that it's curious for a few reasons, but that won't be relevant to talk about until we're way further into the movie. So for now, just put a pin in that squid and keep it in the back of your mind. But if we look closely while Coraline is falling asleep, we see this weird light effect going on. This has to be one of those turning light machines that projects stars on the wall, but it strikes me as off that that kind of swirling matches what we'll see when Coraline leaves her room. And mind you, Charlie sent Coraline to bed early, so presumably Charlie and Mel are still awake and milling around the house right now. But without any check-in on the parents, the little door opens itself and these 4 paper-looking mice work their way out. If you've never had mice invade your home, they can sincerely slip through the tiniest of cracks. So I love that they specifically use mice to punch through to the real world. Although it is strange that the mice come through bricks, and then there are no bricks moments later. They had to go somewhere. Why not make the bricks vanish before the mice come through? But Coraline hears a squeak under her bed. She sees the mouse, and she follows it into the hallway where we can see out of the window to find a very unnatural weather phenomenon going on. I've seen tornadoes and hurricanes, but I've never seen clouds swirling vertically like that. And it makes me think that going through the little door never mattered. That as soon as Coraline fell asleep, she was already transported to the other world because the only thing that really mattered was that the small door had been unlocked. Either that, or our titular character jumps into the other world just in time to miss a tornado. Just saying, that sky ain't right. But the mouse leads Coraline through the house to the tiny door, and when Coraline gets into her living room, the windows still show that swirling texture. So again, something really supernatural is going on outside of the house. And when Coraline opens the small door, there's a tunnel being formed and then lit right in front of her. She sees the mouse go through another small, cracked, open door on the other side of the tunnel, and then a gust of wind hits her in the face, which, that's totally normal, so let's go inside. And as Coraline goes through the tunnel, we see that it's not very sturdy. It's fabric-like and sinks around Coraline's weight, yet that doesn't scare her. And she keeps going through while music plays that sounds like Moses is having a pivotal moment in The Prince of Egypt. And Coraline's face seems curious, but completely unafraid, which does not quite add up with how she responds to stimuli in other scenes. But this is where we're calling it for today. Next week, we're going to meet the other mother and the other father. So let me know your thoughts on all of this that we talked about. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey, Megan, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.